you would have asked me that question 20 years ago when I was getting my master's degree in social work, I would have told you nothing. It was fascinating. I couldn't get far enough away from research at that time because I was really interested in the clinical aspect of working with sort of mental health, substance abuse, clients dealing with a number of sort of personal issues. And at that time, I didn't really see the connection with research and clinical social work practice. But once I started my doctoral program in social work, I realized that, you know, a lot of what I was doing wasn't evidence-based. A lot of my clinical work as a practitioner was really just sort of intuition, problem solving, trying to be sort of empathetic and supportive. But a lot of my clinical skills really weren't grounded on anything that we know what works with helping clients. And so once I sort of understood that connection of how research was really vital to providing effective, efficient clinical practice, that's when I really became passionate about this. And luckily I had wonderful professors that really sort of made that community-based research relevant and practical for clinicians. And then as I started to look at the research around solution-focused brief therapy from a researcher's perspective, I realized that there wasn't a whole lot out there. And the research that was out there wasn't very rigorous in terms of what we know from research designs, making these sort of causal claims about something creating change in participants and clients. So that's what really sort of then led me to focus more on SF research and trying to promote that, not just within the academic research field, but really within the practitioner community-based areas, so that clinicians and sort of coaches and therapists that are wanting to provide effective solution-focused brief therapy services can sort of have the research to back it up and also find new information to sort of improve on their services. And that's what really has, over the last 20 some years, that's what I focus my area on as well. There are a number of topics that solution-focused brief therapy has been applied to across a number of different fields, not just in social work, but marriage and family therapy in particular, it's very big. And then in not just in the US, but all over the world, research is really growing. And so that's a really exciting time right now for people interested in solution-focused brief therapy, because when I was studying it, a lot of the focus or emphasis in the United States was on sort of mental health, internalizing problem behaviors such as anxiety, depression, and then also sort of externalizing behaviors, conduct disorders, substance abuse, and kind of family relationship problems that were occurring with a lot of our participants. So those were a lot of the initial research when we were trying to use outcome measures to see if this made a difference. That's what we tended to focus on. The great thing about solution-focused brief therapy that we know is it's highly flexible. It really lends itself to being applied to a number of different, not just treatment problems, as I've mentioned, but also in different contexts and settings. So in the United States, it's really been used a lot in school social work and school counseling areas, both from kindergarten through university settings. It's also been applied in a number of different community social service agencies for substance abuse, mental health. It's also been applied in child welfare. So families where children have been removed, or there's been concerns around child abuse and neglect, caseworkers, as well as counselors have been working with families there. And so those tend to be right now in the United States, the big areas that SFBT has been applied to. What's interesting in other countries, like in Asia, in China, Japan, and Korea, solution-focused brief therapy has been applied more in school settings, particularly in colleges and universities, as well as in sports as well, where when Beijing, China hosted the Summer Olympics, their diving team, solution-focused brief therapy was used for the diving teams to help them around sort of anxiety, stress, to improve concentration and focus. And so there's a lot of interest in that. And I think it's also expanding in the United States and in other countries also around sort of in business. So nothing related to counseling, but also in business organization around how do managers, business supervisors, how can they take some of the solution-focused brief therapy techniques and then apply it to their sort of kind of staff and employees to help support them so that they can, when they come to work, be effective and provide sort of be at their best. In terms of applying SFBT in sort of sports and athletics, it's just starting to grow here in the United States. I think there's been some influence. It's been, I think, a little bit more developed in Canada, where I know several sports programs like lacrosse and soccer, sort of what American calls soccer, football in the rest of the world. It's been sort of used to help sort of look at ways to help sort of the athletes manage their stress and anxiety, and especially to identify solutions to helping them be their best. And so I think there's a lot of natural ways that we can take the questions we ask, maybe in a more clinical mental health, substance abuse settings, but then really apply it to helping the team identify solutions to whatever sort of issues or areas they want to improve on. So in the United States, being such a sports heavy country, it's only a matter of time. I think we're not there yet, but I'm starting to see people adapting and looking at ways. I think where hasn't shown up so much is in the research, and that sort of follows the mental health track that we've seen, where in the 80s and 90s, solution-focused therapy in terms of clinical work wasn't well there wasn't a lot of research. It was more the practitioners applying it and catching on that way. And I suspect the same in terms of business and kind of management, as well as in athletics and sports. I think it's kind of at that stage, parallels along that path. In the United States, most research is led by universities and colleges, academic researchers who've been trained in advanced research methods and designs, as well as advanced statistical analysis, to be able to take the data, ask the questions, and really generate new information. That's sort of, for my work as a professor at the University of Denver, that is a big part of my job, is to generate new research, new ideas, new information that's going to help guide the field. And so in that regards, part of my time and what I get paid for is to think about and sort of conduct research to sort of generate new ideas. The challenge for practitioners, community clinicians, is they're carrying such high caseloads. They have so much demands in terms of providing clinical services. That is where they generate the revenues to support their positions, their jobs. It's hard for them to have the energy, even if they have the expertise, the time and the energy to do research. So that's where in the United States, most of the research is coming from universities and colleges, but there is a big push now in terms of for clinical practitioners and agencies to demonstrate the services that they're providing is effective, that they are helping clients. There is a big push from the funders, whether it be from the federal government, from state governments, or from sort of managed care health insurance companies that are paying for services. There is a real big push for agencies and practitioners and clinicians, therapists, to demonstrate what they're doing is effective. And part of that is through research, by demonstrating that. So now we are seeing a shift where agencies are now having to do research, evaluation of their clinical practices and services and programs, and reporting back to their funders that what they are doing is effective, and it is something that is demonstrating a benefit to the clients, so in order to receive financial reimbursement and payment. So now universities and colleges are partnering with major social service agencies, school districts, community centers to provide those types of evaluation and a community-based research partnership as well. A lot of the SFBTA research committee, when we review applicants for the research award, we're really sort of focusing on looking at sort of proposals that is going to really focus on promoting solution-focused brief therapy in an innovative area that hasn't been done, that's going to sort of, even if it's not a randomized controlled trial study, maybe it's something more of a pilot study, but it's in an area that very few people have studied, that could be sort of generate sort of preliminary data to show that this is really sort of an area that solution focus can have an impact, and then lead to sort of more rigorous research. And that's how research is often generated. We really start with more smaller pilot studies to demonstrate feasibility, that this is something that that can be done, that can demonstrate that there is some benefit to it. And now we want to take the next step and do a more rigorous study to see if it can hold, and what sort of treatment effect we can demonstrate, and ultimately moving down to, can this be generalized to a much larger area as well. And so the focus isn't so much on some big research study, but really on these smaller, more pilot studies, more qualitative studies that is innovative, that we need research in this particular area. And this sort of applicant can be that person to generate that sort of interest that can then sort of inspire others to look at that area and grow. And so that's really what we're looking for in terms of supporting research with these research awards. That's a great question in terms of where to find the research. Obviously, with the internet now, that has opened so many more sort of doors for people to find and discover new research studies and have access to it. I would say, you know, obviously research journals, because the universities and colleges are sort of at the forefront of conducting research, and from that we, you know, try to publish them in various academic and research journals across the different disciplines. So a number of databases can help you find those studies as well as but I think if you don't have access to research journals, I think there are two sort of areas that people can look into. In the United States, there are these national registries that evaluate research studies and programs to see if they are evidence-based and will rate them. And it's right now at a time where they're sort of gone through changes because of our current president and White House administration. And so there were registries called the National Registry on Evidence-Based Programs and Practices through SAMHSA, or Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration. But that site is no longer active, and they are starting a brand new sort of child welfare-based registry. I would say probably to stay current, because these change as we're seeing right now, I would direct people to the Solution Focused Brief Therapy Association. We are now updating. We have a research page, and we are going to be going through, and every couple months, looking through the different research articles and uploading summaries so that people can see evidence-based research studies. So sfbta.org, you go to our research page, you will find, we're going to be launching this in the next couple months, studies that have been done. And then EBTA, our European counterparts, are also going to be doing it as well. And we are going to be sort of supporting each other on this work. And it really sort of originated from Dr. Alistair MacDonald in the UK, a psychiatrist who started on his own researching and summarizing them and maintaining them on his listserv on his website, but he has since retired. And so EBTA and SFBTA are going to be sort of picking up where he left off and sort of continuing that work. And we're both in the process of getting ready to sort of launch those studies, and that would probably be the best place for people to go to find SFBT research and stay at current. The one message I'd love to get out to your audience and attendees is that, and people watching and listening to this, is that our best hopes is that research continues to grow, because it really can empower not only the clinicians and the therapists and the coaches using this approach, but more importantly, the clients. It gives them the access to be able to receive a solution-focused counseling session because people are willing to pay people to use this, because we know it works, because it can be very beneficial for the participants. And I think SFBT research, we want it to be out there for the audience to see that this is something that can really impact clients and people. And we think this is something that is really a wonderful way to help all the people that come to us looking for help.